What really happened with Snow White? And is there somebody that we can blame? Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot were rarely together. And if they were there, they weren't really communicating, they were taking a picture, and then they were just going their separate ways. People were going, what could have happened on this set to make this so uncomfortable?
With Rachel Zegler, I felt like her acting was okay, her singing was okay, but it was not what was needed for this.
Despite my flaws and my cracks, I know in my heart that I will be okay.
Hold it, Rachel, and cut!
Reset it!
Go, baby, that was the take!
Good take, everyone.
It was supposed to be Disney's next billion-dollar blockbuster, a reimagining of their most iconic fairy tale. But instead, Snow White spiraled into one of the biggest PR disasters in modern Hollywood. And at the center of it all, Rachel Zegler, an actress who went from rising star to the internet's favorite punching bag in just a matter of months. What went so wrong behind the scenes that Disney is now reportedly considering blacklisting her altogether? And why did her feud with co-star Gal Gadot explode into something much bigger than anyone expected? Let's break down the full disaster, from the viral interviews to the political landmines, and find out how Snow White became the remake that blew up before it even premiered. Section 1, Rachel versus Snow White. It all started with a dress and a microphone. In a now infamous interview clip, Rachel Zegler appears in full Snow White costume, boldly stating, "Every hour I'm in this dress, I deserve to be paid for all 18 of them."
Every time she speaks, she gets less likable. There's some clip of her on the internet in her Snow White outfit saying, "Every hour I am in the outfit of Snow White wearing the dress. All 18 hours, I deserve to be paid for every single one." Oh, really? Are you having trouble paying your bills, Rachel? Did Steven Spielberg not pay you for your role in West Side Story? Did Disney fail to give you a healthy paycheck for, cry me a river. She's just exactly everything that we can't stand.
I'm going to stand there 18 hours in a dress of an iconic Disney princess. I deserve to be paid for every hour that it is streamed online.
That clip alone sparked massive backlash, with critics slamming her for sounding ungrateful and out of touch. But that was just the beginning. She didn't stop at criticizing the long shoot days. She went after the original 1937 film itself. Rachel called it weird and said the prince was, quote, literally a stalker. Instead of portraying Snow White as a love-struck princess, she framed her version as a woman who didn't need romance.
A modern edge to it on stage. What do you mean by that?
I just mean that it's no longer 1937, and we absolutely wrote a Snow White that is
not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be.
Oh my God.
According to Zegler, this remake wasn't about a prince. It was about power. Fans didn't take kindly to that, especially longtime Disney lovers who saw her comments as a direct insult to the legacy of the studio's first ever animated feature. It wasn't just a hot take, it was a PR time bomb. Section 2, Behind the Scenes Chaos. As things began spiraling publicly, insiders started leaking what was going on behind the scenes, and it wasn't pretty. Reports surfaced that Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot, who plays the evil queen, barely interacted on set. If they were photographed together, it was all for show. In reality, they would snap a picture, walk off in opposite directions, and go the rest of the day without speaking. At premieres, the tension was just as visible. Fans noticed the cold body language, the lack of chemistry, and how the two stars seemed to avoid eye contact at all costs. One insider revealed that Rachel's behavior made the set uncomfortable. And when you're working on a $250 million production, the last thing you want is your two leads refusing to even talk.
$270 million on the film, the studio opted for a small LA premiere held Saturday in the middle of the day with limited press. Zegler greeted children dressed as Snow White. She was not at Disneyland on Sunday, where Gal Gadot promoted the film, surrounded by children dressed as her character, the evil queen.
Disney reportedly tried to mediate, flying in producers and executives to calm things down. But by then, the damage was already done. Section 3, Politics, Tweets, and Meltdowns. Then came the tweet that lit everything on fire. In August 2024, as Disney was gearing up to push the film's marketing into high gear, Rachel posted her support for Palestine online, right as the first trailer dropped.
They had her tweet out like a little, "Yay, Snow White, can't wait, so excited, I love to play her." And she did it and got like millions of views, and they were like, "Good job, Rachel." And then she, like minutes later, followed it up with, "And never forget, free Palestine."
But there was a huge problem. Her co-star Gal Gadot served in the Israeli Defense Forces. She has long been a vocal supporter of Israel. The clash of viewpoints wasn't just awkward, it became explosive. According to reports, Rachel's tweet caused panic inside Disney. Executives were furious. Some even claimed the post sabotaged the entire promotional campaign. The studio scrambled, calling Rachel directly and sending producers to New York to beg her to delete the tweet. Gal, meanwhile, started receiving threats online, so serious that Disney had to hire additional security for her. Rachel, insiders say, didn't seem to grasp the consequences. She brushed off concerns, which only deepened the rift between her and the studio, and between her and Gadot. At this point, even insiders were whispering that Disney wanted her gone, but couldn't afford to drop her after spending hundreds of millions on production and marketing. They were trapped, and it showed. Section 4, a $250 million flop in the making. Critics were already skeptical, but when reviews started rolling in, it became clear. Snow White wasn't just a controversy magnet, it was a box office disaster. With a production budget exceeding $250 million, the film needed a monster opening just to break even. But thanks to Rachel's bad press, it never stood a chance. The film was so heavily review-bombed that IMDb had to issue a warning. It currently sits at an abysmal 1.6 rating, making it one of the worst-reviewed Disney movies of all time. And the fallout didn't stop there.
The Snow White remake is now one of the lowest-rated films in IMDb history. This is such a poor reception for a Disney princess movie, and I'll be surprised if it even has a 1-star tomorrow because the bad reviews keep pouring in by the second.
Insiders revealed that Disney has quietly shelved other live-action remakes, like Tangled, out of fear that Rachel's damage to the brand could spread. The studio, once confident in its remake formula, was now in full retreat mode. One executive reportedly said, "Rachel is costing us millions, and we can't even get rid of her." Section 5, the fake friendship facade. As the promotional campaign continued, Disney desperately tried to cover the cracks, but fans weren't fooled. At the US premiere, Rachel was seen surrounded by children dressed as Snow White, while Gal was miles away at a separate event at Disneyland with kids dressed as the evil queen. At the European premiere in Spain, things were even more obvious. Gal Gadot didn't even show up. Reports said she opted out entirely, refusing to be part of the final press push. Even People magazine published a story with insiders saying Gal and Rachel were not friends, had nothing in common, and simply did a job together. One source bluntly stated, "Gal doesn't understand why Rachel would criticize a project she signed on to do. She just doesn't get it." Neither did the fans, or the critics, or the studio. Section 6, Rachel versus her own co-star. But Gal wasn't the only one burned by Rachel's actions. Andrew Burnap, who played the prince, once believed this role would launch his career. In interviews, he spoke about how he sat down on the ground in disbelief when he landed the part. He thought his life was about to change. And it did, but not in the way he expected. Rachel began openly trashing the prince character in press interviews, calling him a guy who literally stalks her. She made it clear that the love story was irrelevant, if not harmful, and emphasized that her Snow White didn't need a man.
The original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There is a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her.
Yeah.
Weird.
Super weird.
So we didn't do that this time.
So no prince or a different kind of prince?
We have a different approach to what I'm sure a lot of people will assume is a love story just because, like, we cast a guy in the movie, right. Andrew Burnap, great dude. It's really not about the love story at all, which is really, really wonderful. And whether or not she finds love along the way is anybody's guess until 2024. All of Andrew's scenes could get cut. Who knows?
Andrew's role was essentially reduced to nothing. Even his scenes were rumored to be cut down in post-production. Worse, Disney legend David Hand, the son of the original supervising director, publicly called Rachel's comments disrespectful and insulting to what Walt Disney created. At that point, even longtime Disney fans began calling for Rachel's removal. The trust was broken. Section 7, forced apology and final damage control. With the backlash growing and critics tearing the movie apart, Disney forced Rachel into damage control mode. In an interview with Variety, she backtracked hard, claiming she was misquoted and that the love story was always part of the plan. She said she would never want to box someone in and insisted her comments were taken out of context. But the internet doesn't forget. To many, it came off as too little, too late. The damage was done. Disney's brand was bruised. And Rachel's reputation, it may be beyond repair. Behind the scenes, reports say the studio is seriously considering freezing Rachel out of future projects entirely. One insider said, "She's radioactive right now. No one wants to touch her." Conclusion: from star to liability, Rachel Zegler went from being the next big thing to the woman who may have just single-handedly ended Disney's live-action remake era. She didn't just clash with co-stars, she clashed with the very brand that made her a household name. Her interviews were firestorms, her tweets caused panic, and her attitude, unforgivable in the eyes of many fans. Whether it was ego, inexperience, or just bad timing, one thing's clear: Disney gambled big and lost bigger. So what happens next? Will Rachel Zegler recover from this career nosedive? Or has Hollywood already decided to move on? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to check out our other deep dives into Hollywood's most controversial stars.